welcome everybody and welcome to day 19 of lockdown poetry nonsense. Well, today I've got 3 more poems for you. 2 new ones written since I last spoke to you, and an old one. So without further ado, we'll get into the first one. Well, this first poem is about these FaceTime calls or Zoom calls or WhatsApp calls or whatever you want to call them, calls that we've been having with friends during lockdown. And I've got to admit, we've found them absolutely brilliant. In fact, we're connecting with our friends, with some of our friends, more often than we did before lockdown, which is fantastic, particularly when there's people at the other end of the country. So it's brilliant. But this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek poem about these lockdown calls. It's called No Room for Zoom. iPad ready, sat on sofa in living room, debating whether we're using FaceTime or Zoom. Our tablets balanced on a table precariously. Are you happy with that angle? Seriously? It takes a time to make the connection. Wife wipes down the device for fear of infection. After a while, they come into view. I think they've already had a view. They mutter something like, "Can you hear me?" Then do a bottoms up and high five virtually. We sit together like on Mr. and Mrs. It's not long before the men are off for their pisses. Wine bottle and well hidden, not in view. It'll be harder to tell that we too have had a view. Spielberg will have a duck fit when we slip out of frame. Happens loads when there's a hint of a game. We sweat a lot at the thought of pub quiz spot, but cheat on our phones just out of shot. Women whinge at the blokey buddy banter, complain that in lockdown her man doesn't understand her. The girls witter as the blokes look bored. When talking about football, the lads get ignored. The call degenerates as we get more pissed. Start recalling best films like The Exorcist. Who tried to remember the great box set that she thought was great, but he didn't get. We laugh at jokes that in the morning won't be funny and boast about how we're saving so much money. Remember laughing at old comics like Tony Slattery, but the night ends abruptly when we run out of battery. This poem is a bit more of a serious one. It was just me reflecting on lockdown basically and how people possibly are going to change once we come out of it. It's called Reflections in Lockdown. Blank faces pass in a blur, no time to stop, no time to care. Wrapped and cocooned in pity, driven to despair by another committee. Steps we take to go nowhere, recorded on a device from a billionaire. Exhaling pollution like it's going out of fashion, energy wasted on a pretty pointless passion. We pity the pavement, ne'er-do-wells, turn up our noses at unsociable smells, make a beeline to avoid the nutter, selling big issue from another gutter. Our meaningless lives, lost in the moment, ignore these folk like a rancid rodent. But times do change, our mindsets too, sitting at home with nothing to do, but think how selfish we have all become. What's enabled us to all succumb to a world where lives weren't equal. There's going to be no thrilling sequel when lockdown's unlocked and people flock to towns and cities. Let's take stock to remember those who matter most. The guy who continued to deliver post, those stacking shelves to give you toast, Just Eat man delivering Sunday roast, health workers, social care, people beyond compare, bus drivers, train drivers, those who got you there. When this is done and it's all over, it's not the millionaires, but essential workers doing their thing that answered all our prayers. Thank you. This last one is a bit of nostalgia really, thinking back to the old days when we used to go night clubbing back in the 80s. It's called 80s Nightclub. Nightclub walls dripping in nicotine, a basket with chips and chicken in, high smarting with swirling smoke, only a misplaced glance to provoke a dance floor fight between two youths, breaking all the establishment rules. Avoiding being burns, an ongoing battle, shuffling on flashing floor like herded cattle. We all believed we looked so cool, with our fresh-faced looks just out of school. With fag lazily hanging from pursed up lips while trying to dance by wiggling hips. Girls together in a rah-rah skirt, handbags floored and ready to flirt. New rags stinking from stale smoke stench. Beer sadly spilt that would definitely drench. The night would end with a sexy slow smoochie and a decent girl to snog if you were lucky. Okay, thank you. Well, that's the end of day 19 of lockdown poetry nonsense. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying the less frequent nature of these bits of rubbish, really, and it's keeping you entertained. If not, well, you don't have to listen to you anyway. So until next Friday or this Friday, have a great couple of days. I'll see you then. Bye now.